it's a term we're trying to coin a little bit because I think that's a challenge that every organization out there has, which is like, how do you keep your teams aligned? How do you keep the plane flying while you're building it, or whatever that expression is, right? But everything, like the one thing every single organization and sales team and an operations team has out there is that like change is constant, right? Whether it's in your own product and services, whether it's in your processes, whether it's in your tools, like there is so much change and day-to-day decision-making that people need to keep track of. And so how can we make that just a little bit easier for employees and for their managers and for the enablement teams that are having to keep track of all this change as well as enable their users on it? Yeah, it's interesting when you're talking what you just mentioned about, people not even knowing what kind of features are available in their tools. Like I was asking my team member the other day about this feature in Outreach. He's like, oh, I don't know. And, turns out he just hadn't been using that feature for a couple of weeks. And, when it comes to just software not getting utilized, there's a lot of tools out there that measure that. But if, looking at some of the customers that were prospects that we've been talking to recently, like one of them has over 4,000 employees and they have a 70% login rate ever in Salesforce, right? And that goes to show that, just introducing tools, if you don't have the right change management strategy around that, if you don't, properly train your users on how to use them, then it's really hard. And one of the things I was talking with organizations, I'm like, listen, like I can't solve for the fact that people aren't logging into Salesforce, right? Like that at the end of the day, like there's a really interesting Australian study that breaks down, the factors that impact technology adoption. I'll send it to you afterwards. But it really comes down to a couple of different factors. The first one is perceived usefulness, right? Like what are the benefits to that user? Like why, as an employee, do I want to use that tool? What is it going to do for me, right? And to me, you can't do that in a tool, right? That is what your in-person training needs to be focused on. That is what your time with your employees needs to be focused on, is like, here's why we've invested in this tool. Here's how it's going to benefit you and make you better at your job, right? And here's what you can benefit from using it. You're going to get more sales, whatever it is. And then there's managerial support, right? So how do you make it easy for them to use the tools, right? And that's where more of, a solution like Speckit comes in, which is like, as I'm navigating the tool, any question that I have is easily answered. And then lastly, it's peer influence, right? And that's why more and more organizations, especially in larger teams, we see have, power user boards or champion boards where they identify like some key influencers in their sales teams or operations teams, either because they're, top performers or because they've been at the company for a long time, or because like people just listen to them. They're that person that, has a lot of friends in the organization. But if you get those people bought into the tools and they can be your force multipliers, meaning when you're, trying to get adoption of a new sales process, they can speak on your behalf rather than your IT team pushing that change or sales ops pushing that change, you can really create a little bit more momentum around the adoption of those tools.
Yeah, I love those three categories: perceived usefulness, manager support, and peer influence. And all three of them, I think, combined together would make for like a great rollout of a new tool or a great ongoing enablement of an existing tool. But to me, that third one you just talked about, peer influence, time and time again, is the one that I see that makes or breaks anything that we use. Anything that we use. If we don't have that third one, forget about it. It's not going to make it.
100%. That's what I spent a lot of my time on when I was managing Salesforce and the majority of our tech stack at my last company. Like I was just spending so much time figuring out like who were the people that I had to win over and figuring out like what, literally sitting down with them, watching them work and asking them like, why aren't you using this, right? How can I make this easier? What's something that pains you, right? And just identifying those low-hanging fruit and quick wins that I could potentially like roll out in Salesforce. Sometimes it's as simple as like a button that allowed them to like pull a report, sometimes it's silly, but if you get buy-in from those folks on your team, then, when you roll it out, I'm like, okay, great. I just built this thing you asked me, go let everyone know, right? And all of a sudden it's not this IT forcing adoption. It's not your sales ops, it's not your sales enablement. You've now got this, champions board of people that can do that. And you can do it officially, you can do it unofficially. I think it really depends on your culture and your organization. But, just like there's sales presidents club that really rewards top sales performers, I think there's something to say about, having power teams, power influencers out there that really promote operational excellence in your organization. Because at the end of the day, like that makes a huge difference on your bottom line as well.